BlackBerry is a biodrama about the meteoric rise and catastrophic demise of the world's first smartphone. We all know that no one really in the world has a crackberry phone anymore. We are too spoiled with touch screens, music on our phones, social media, everything that BlackBerry was supposed to be, we have in a smarter iPhone. This film, in its own comedic way, tells the story of what we think we know and some things we really didn't know that was going on behind the scenes. And it is filmed that way. One of the actors of the film is Matt Johnson. He directed this film and he co-wrote the film as well. This is a fantastic screenplay, and I think he did a brilliant job directing it. Oftentimes, with period pieces in particular, they look so digital. They look too tech savvy for the times that they are filming. He did a fantastic job with the filming. The cinematography felt very grainy and Super 8, really. It felt like the times. It felt like he used the technology of the times, which added to the nostalgic value and style of the film. I think, especially from the period pieces we got so far this year, from the 80s, like Air, and even like a Tetris earlier than that, I think out of those films, especially about films that are like behind the scenes business deals, this is set apart. This is excellent filmmaking. I think Matt Johnson did a great job. Now let's get into the performances. The performances in this film are exceptional. So not only did Matt Johnson direct the film and did a brilliant job directing, he also co-wrote this film with Jackie McNish and Matthew Miller, but he also stars as a supporting actor in this film. Now he plays a schlub, he plays a slacker who never grows. There's no growth in him in this film, even though he makes a smart decision eventually. He never grows in this film. And a lot of his comedy is the camera work. Again, he directed it. So a lot of the camera work does the heavy lifting, even though he's supposed to be the comic relief in the film. I think he uses his camera to perform. His humor relied a lot on his own camera. Jay Baruchel has never been better. And I liked his arc. So he plays somewhat of a coming of age story as his stunted growth goes from juvenile tech genius, who's very apprehensive of becoming a corporate shield, until he does relent, because he does have to grow. And he doesn't know what to do to make BlackBerry more effective for the future. All they really had to do was make it a touchscreen earlier, add a SIM card. Like, there were small things that they needed to do to really send it into the future, but they were unmatched by Apple and by Steve Jobs, even though they had geniuses right there in the palm of their hands. You have Carrie Elwes, who plays so well, so brilliantly. He plays a shark, but a patient shark, a shark that patiently waits for BlackBerry's inevitable demise, the inevitable downfall, so that just in the nick of time, he can try to buy it and do what he wants. Change it to his own idea, the Palm Pilot. But the standout for me, the standout was Glenn Howerton. Now, I think this is one of the best performances of the year. And for me, it's one of the best performances he's delivered in everything that I've seen that he's done. And if we're lucky and this film has legs like Everything Everywhere All at Once did last year, he may be in for an Oscar nomination for this film. Most know him from Always Sunny. I remember how fantastic he was in this small movie probably nobody saw called Coffee Town that I loved. He is so funny in that film. He is a physical comedian, and he uses that type of performance for dark comedy in this. He was such an amalgamation of what I would say. I would color this as, director Ron Howard meets Joe Pesci. An amalgamation of them, because he plays this, he wants to be a shark, but then he realizes he's on to something, that this could really turn it around for him after he's fired for stealing someone's idea at his old job. And then he realizes, oh, this is a better thievery. He could really come into his own here, betting on these young nerds, these geniuses who really have something. And he uses, his business savvy to bring up to really make this idea something, BlackBerry. And he really sells the entire movie. And a lot of this, again, is the physical comedy that he uses, that he brings to this dark comedic role. I think if this has legs, he deserves an Oscar nomination for this performance. He is fantastic, and he has quite a few Oscar moments in this film. Let's get into the style of this film. This film is very stylized, and I think the style elevates the film, and it separates itself from the other period pieces we got this year from the 80s and the 70s, those period pieces that had their own unique style. I think because of the texture of the film, that super 8mm type of grainy texture that was very reminiscent of the times and very nostalgic, and because of the timeline of the late 90s to the mid to late 2000s, that technology changed and so did the style. Director Matt Johnson had the foresight to make the film or update the scenes according to the times. I think that really works here. Lots of keyhole shots, lots of what seemed like B-roll. I think that's why people are comparing it to The Office, how the film captures these characters in their own element as if they don't know they're being filmed. I love how he used the camera to tell the story and to make the film very nostalgic, make this movie very nostalgic. And it just felt a lot like deleted scenes that were very funny, that you get to see even though it was cut from the film. I like that style he used. I like the sound design of this film too, which was also nostalgic. The dial-up buzzing, the AOL sounds, the incoming fax sounds, the email notifications, those sounds that are very reminiscent of the time, played in the background, which wasn't very prominent. It felt like white noise. And then there were those dolly trombone zoom effects with pregnant pauses that made those scenes very humorous. I think it has a cinematic quality that is so unique. Now, this is not a perfect film. What went wrong for me is the runtime. This film is 1 hour and 59 minutes. And some of the ending, I think, could have been cut, or even some of the scenes, some of the unnecessary scenes. I know why they used some of these scenes, but pulling up to parking spaces, walking up to the plane at the clearport, things like that. And I know that some of the dialogue in those scenes are very important, but if some of those scenes were cut, this could have been a tight 100-minute movie. And I think that might have been better because there's so much greatness in the beginning of the film that some of the story kind of died down and felt a little unnecessary. So I think if a good 20 minutes maybe were cut from this film, this would have been perfect for me. Some of those exterior shots just were really unnecessary in the movement of the story, the natural progression of the story. I think they were unnecessary. Some of the cab scenes, a lot of this was just unnecessary. Overall, this is one of the best films of the year. BlackBerry really does tell this great story about a device we are all familiar with, but we didn't know about the goings on, how it, rose to be so popular, and then the downfall, these mistakes that the people behind the phone made. These actors do such a fantastic job telling this story, and director Matt Johnson does a fantastic job capturing this story and transporting the audience to these times. I cannot recommend this film enough. This is a really great film. Highly recommend seeing BlackBerry on the biggest screen you can find in the theaters this weekend.